Hey everyone, Sheldon here, and welcome to this parts list video, and I'm going to be showing you guys some of the tools I use for this hobby in particular, which you can see, paper crafting. Paper crafting requires a lot of paper. As you can see, all three of these projects are made out of paper. And of course there's a little bit of metal for the springs and the pins and screws and stuff like that. So the first thing you need for projects like this is paper. Now, as you can see, this is normal copy paper for basic high volume jobs. So it's pretty basic paper. It is 8.5 by 11 inches or 216 millimeters by 279 millimeters. You can also see it says 20 pounds right there, and I wouldn't really pay attention to the brightness. I would actually go lower than that. I think it's cheaper that way. But this is just the paper I have around the house. This is what one sheet of the paper I'm using looks like. So as you can see, it's relatively thin. I mainly use this blank paper for blueprints and stuff, but for all of my other projects I use just old graded schoolwork. So whichever paper the graded schoolwork is, just use that. The next thing I use is Elmer's Glue All. This is just multi-purpose glue. In my opinion, this works better than Elmer's School Glue. Elmer's Glue All is actually a little bit more expensive, but it hardens better than Elmer's School Glue. This is just stronger when it dries. You can also use Elmer's Wood Glue, or just wood glue in general, and it is extremely strong. You can actually find the waterproof kind too, which will make the paper much more resilient to water. The only problem with wood glue is the fact that it takes forever to dry. You know, I put a piece underneath a textbook once and it took 3 weeks to dry completely. It takes a really long time. If you're willing to wait though, you know, try it out. It will be extremely strong. This is also a little bit more expensive than Elmer's Glue All. The next thing you need is a crafting knife. Now, you can find these at pretty much any hardware store. They're relatively cheap. You can get a kit and it comes with all sorts of blades and stuff like that, so it's pretty nice. So you can just replace the blades from time to time when they start to get dull, and you know, you'll have a really reliable knife or blade for a really long time. So the next thing you need is super glue, and you can find this at a lot of stores, and this is actually the cheapest one on the shelf, and it works great. Just make sure it isn't gel super glue, and also make sure it contains this ingredient here. This is called cyanoacrylate, and this is what causes the reaction between the super glue and baking soda. So that leads me to the next ingredient that you need, which is here. This is baking soda. So basically when you mix these two things together, it forms kind of an epoxy type mixture or a filler, and I've talked about this in my other videos as well. So I use this mixture all the time, and it's actually a heat producing mixture. It doesn't produce a lot of heat, but when you first use it and accidentally get some on your finger, it can freak you out a little bit. You think it's going to burn you, but it doesn't. But as you can see, this is what allows me to achieve a smooth surface like this, and it's pretty easy to use. So you can check out my polishing paper video if you'd like to see more information about that. I will link that in the description as well. So I will try to refer to this mixture as super soda because, you know, it just sounds cool. But I will probably have to specify that it is a mixture of super glue and baking soda. So the next thing you need is pliers. As you can see, this is just a super basic tool, and they just, you know, open and close. Super basic. I only use this to compress the layers together and bend wire into my desired shape, you know, for reinforcements and stuff. So, you know, just use whatever you have for pliers. The next thing you need is a ruler for cutting long straight edges. Now, I don't really use a plastic ruler for cutting straight edges because when you're cutting along an edge or something, you know, like this, it's really easy for the knife to slip and just go up here and start cutting your ruler in half, you know, and if there's already a groove there, the knife will just catch that groove again and keep cutting, and then you have 2 pieces of a ruler. So I highly recommend using a metal ruler to cut along, then you just won't have any problems like that. So this next tool is not completely necessary, but if you're using blueprints that are extremely accurate, or you're using the blueprints for the hidden blade or something like that, these will be very, very handy. I should probably open the box and show you. These are dial calipers. So these are actually meant for measuring parts very accurately. As you can see, it says 0.001, so that means it is within the accuracy of 1/1000th of an inch. So that's pretty accurate. Now this is the dial version, obviously. The entire thing is completely mechanical, so you don't have to worry about batteries or anything. But the digital version is actually cheaper. I saw one on Amazon for like 14 bucks, so that's a pretty good deal for being able to measure parts accurately. Projects like this will be a lot easier to build if you have calipers. You'll just be able to measure parts very accurately. You'll be able to calculate how many layers you need because you can actually measure how thick a sheet of paper is. This one is 0.004 of an inch. The next thing you need is a needle file, as you can see, or 2 needle files or several needle files. They will help a lot, I guarantee it. This one has like a flat surface and it's angled here, so you can get corners really well. This one is more cylindrical, so you can, file fillets and stuff like this. They really help a lot, so I should probably upgrade these. I've been using these for years, but they've worked perfectly. The next thing you need is a very basic set of drills. They come in assorted sizes, so they work perfectly. The next thing I recommend is a sanding sponge or just sandpaper. As you can see, sanding sponges are, similar to sponges, and they're great because they kind of push down when you're sanding, so you can get better coverage. And I also use normal sandpaper like this. This is pretty high grit sandpaper. This is 400 grit. This is what I use when I'm getting closer to polishing the paper. If you just want to sand the paper and remove the paper material really fast, I recommend using a low grit sandpaper, like 100 grit or something like that. And if you're getting closer to polishing it, you can go higher grit, so like 600 or something like that. So that is all of the basic stuff that I use, and now I'm going to show you some of the stuff I use to reinforce the paper parts. So I use a few different things. As you can see, these are just paper clips, the jumbo size, and you can basically bend these into any shape you want, into the form of the moving part you're building, and it will strengthen that part a lot. I also use this metal wire. These are actually those little flag poles that are in the ground, but I actually bought a few of them at the store because they are extremely cheap. And you can also use this sheet metal stuff here. This is usually found at a construction site. They usually just throw this stuff away. This is the metal that is wrapped around freight. So they basically just cut it off and it's on the ground. So this works very well. Pretty much every paper crafter knows about this because it's pretty springy. People often use it as the sear spring for the M1911, so it's really nice. I actually used this as a reinforcement for the paper mini dual action hidden blade, the wheel right there. As you can see, there's a strip of sheet metal, and that is this sheet metal. The black paint just comes right off, and I had to do that because this wheel for this particular design was pretty small. So when the string was pulling on it, there was actually a lot of torque, which could potentially cause this wheel to fall apart after a long period of time. So I decided to do that. It has about 4 layers of sheet metal, one at the bottom, one right there, and one right there. So this really helped a lot. So I hope this video gives you guys a better understanding of some of the materials I use for paper crafting. There are plenty of other alternatives you can use. I just try to stick with the cheaper ones because I don't really like spending a lot of money. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below or in a personal message, and be sure to subscribe if you would like to see all of the latest updates, and I will see you guys in the next video.